Welcome to the Age of Awakening.
Please identify yourself. Enter.
Hey, what's up, Triple P Nation? Welcome back to the podcast where this week, like every week, we're going to explore the tools, tactics, and strategies to help you achieve personal and business mastery. And this week, we're going to talk about ways of how you can create more assets in your life. Assets are good. Assets create wealth. Assets create appreciation. In other words, they grow in value over time, and even better when they throw off cash flow. So we're going to be speaking with my guest, Brent Bowers, in particular about real estate investing. Perhaps a little different take than you've heard about it before, if you've heard anything about it in the past. Because a lot of times you guys reach out to me, I'm very heavily vested in real estate, and you're like, Jay, can you teach us how to do it? I'd like to learn more about it. So we are certainly searching for guests who can provide you some insight, who can give you some guidance, and at the same time, maybe give you some of the tactics and strategies necessary so you can get started. And which, by the way, Brent talks about you don't need a ton of money to get started. So this may be right up your alley. So for those of you who are new to the show, welcome. Who am I? I'm Dr. Jay LaGuardia. Been doing this behind this mic for about 6.5 years. Absolutely love doing it. It's a passion of mine. I love being able to communicate with Triple P Nation. Yeah, I know it's really a monologue, but I consider it a dialogue that you're sitting in front of me. We're having a conversation. And that's why I always encourage you to reach out to me. You can email me, Dr. J at Triple P Life. You can message me on Facebook or Instagram, LinkedIn, wherever you want to go. I will always respond to you as quickly as possible. Tell me what you like about the show. Tell me what you don't like. We've had some pretty controversial episodes recently. Not controversial in the sense that they aren't true. It's just stuff that people have not heard. In particular, I've heard a lot from you guys in regards to my interview last week with Polly Tommy, the executive producer of Vax 3. Of course, Cheryl Atkinson, the author of Follow the Science. And man, did the comments come in fast and furious, and most of them really positive. Some of you were a little taken back. We're like, where did this stuff come from? I've never heard of it. Is it true? All I can tell you this, I will never lead you astray. I will do the background, the research that anyone that comes on here, I can say implicitly that what they're telling you is the truth or a really good portion of the truth. And what I mean by that is, yeah, maybe there's more behind it, but in theory, the topics that we're covering are all based in fact. They're based in, particularly on this side, right, on the science-based. I'll never lead you astray. I'm not going to give you information and bring guests on that are going to mislead you. It's just not how I roll, because my reputation means a lot to me. And if I lose the trust, if you guys don't trust me and know that I've vetted the people who come on this show, then how could you ever trust me in the future? And you'll leave, you'll go somewhere else, and you should. I would too. So please understand that was always a very, very important thing for me. So again, if you're new, welcome. Love that you're joining us. And for those who've been with us since the beginning, which there's so many of you, thank you so much. I appreciate and love each and every one of you. So this week, we've got to start with our success neck. And as we head into the new year, I want to start helping you strategize to increase your income and revenue and wealth over the next year. It's a big goal for me. Look, part of the show is about empowering your dreams, right? How do we empower your dreams? How do we get you motivated and excited about living your purpose and living your best life? And it's about accelerating prosperity, right? It's about igniting passion. And the prosperity side, I want to focus more on in 2025, because here's what I believe. I believe 2025 is going to be start of a economic boom. And if you're not prepared, you're going to miss out. So it's all about positioning yourself, knowing what you need to do to step into this rapidly expanding economy. And there's some really cool stuff that's happening. Maybe some of you know, some of you don't know, but I want to give you as many strategies as possible, open you up to these concepts So you can utilize that information to provide more wealth for you, your family, not just now in the future, because some of this wealth that can be generated coming up over the next couple of years can really be generational wealth. Believe me when I tell you that's a fact. So this week's Success Snack is about the 3 strategies to help you save more income so you can purchase more wealth producing assets. Now, if you look at, I teach this concept called wealth triangle. So at the top is of the pyramid is earnings. So earnings is your, is what you trade your time for. You go to work, you make money. You have a business, you make money. Your profit is your earnings. Or you could have a side hustle, you can sell something, you can have an asset, sell it, and increases your earnings. And then in the bottom right-hand corner, if you're looking at, if you're looking at the triangle, it's the bottom left-hand corner would be your savings. So earnings drive savings. And savings is a percent of that earnings that you set aside. So then you can trigger the right side of the triangle, which is the purchasing of assets. Assets is something that creates revenue or appreciates over time. And the more assets you have, the greater wealth you accumulate. And the more assets you create, it increases the flow or the exponential flow in that triangle. So as you pull off revenue from that asset, it drives up earnings. Then you could actually increase your savings rate to speed up the purchase of more assets. And it begins to velocitize. And that's how you really begin to create sustainable wealth. Richard Kiyosaki, in his famous book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, says it takes 11 forms of passive income to create massive wealth. And that's always been my focus since I read that book in 1997, I believe it was. Listen, you can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. And I want to give you some of those tools how to do it. So we're going to start here with these 3 strategies. And by the way, the next few weeks, I'm going to continue to build on this. So number 1 is, why do you want to create wealth? What is your financial goals? Is if you don't identify the specific wealth producing assets that you want to purchase, could be real estate, could be stocks, it could be buying businesses or starting a business, it could be Bitcoin, which we're going to have an expert on the show about Bitcoin in the future. No matter what it is, you got to quantify what it is that you want to create and target a savings amount over a timeline that you can make that become a reality. So I want to encourage you to imagine the freedom and the benefits of owning such assets can reinforce for you, right? And then understand the motivating factor of why you want to create it. Again, it could be family wealth, it could be legacy wealth. So you can be more benevolent and giving to your favorite charities and causes. It could be whatever motivates you, but you got to start first with a purpose and define your financial goal. Now, the second strategy is simply, you got to start automating your savings. So many people spend exactly what they earn. And so they have nothing left over to save. And if you remember, I just talked about the wealth triangle, the earnings, right, drives the savings. But if you're spending all your earnings on whatever, there's no savings. And of course, then you can't purchase assets. So automate, right? Automate a fixed percentage of your income to dedicate towards savings on a monthly basis. Do this in a separate account. We created what's called a wealth account, and our monthly savings went specifically into this wealth account. It wasn't used for household items. It wasn't used to repair a car. It wasn't used to go on vacation. Our wealth account, every dollar is targeted towards asset purchasing, right? To create more wealth. So anything that devalues over time is not considered an asset and should not go into the wealth account. Like a car. If you purchase a car, as soon as you pull it off the lot, depending on the type of car, it depreciates 10, 15, 20, 25% immediately. That's not an asset. You don't want to use your wealth account for purchasing vehicles. And in particular, You want to find high yield savings accounts or money market accounts so you can maximize the rate of return that the money that you're saving in that account is earning. Number 3 is I want you to optimize your allocation, your revenue allocation. Some people call it budgeting. I hate that word because it's a scarcity word. So, revenue allocation is simply about tracking your expenses, and you can use simple apps like Mint or YNAB to identify your spending leaks. What's your spending leaks? Remember, I said a lot of people spend exactly what they earn. They don't even realize where their money's going. So, even if they want to save, they have all these additional expenses, subscriptions that is just leaking their bucket profusely. We got to fill the holes in the bucket so you have more money to save. So here's a really simple adoption as far as allocation rule 50, 30, 20. So I suggest 50% of your money needs to go to basic needs. This is your rent, utilities, your gas, your food, insurances, whatever. So 50% for basic needs. The 30% is look, you got to enjoy life. So if you want to save money for a vacation, you want to take your spouse out to dinner once a week, you want to take, do something fun with the kids, you should have a certain percent set aside to enjoy life. The people who save for 40, 50 years and they don't really embrace and enjoy life because every dollar that they get that doesn't go to basic utilities and needs, they spend immediately and put towards savings. And so therefore, they have no money left over for fun. That's not fun. So I don't want you to do that. So now, the last percent, the 20, is for your savings. That's the minimum amount. If you can save more, I know people who save up to 30 to 35% of their monthly revenue, and that goes into savings. And sure, do they live lean and mean on their basic needs? Of course they do, right? They don't have 7 streaming services. They don't have, 25 different subscription plans. They're very intentional where their money goes. So if you're going to adopt this rule, you need to become intentional. And we will talk about next of how to do that in an upcoming episode. But a minimum of 20% of your money needs to go into your savings and investment. So what we're talking here about is cutting those unnecessary expenses. So as I mentioned, the unused subscriptions, cooking more. Look, the food you make at home is way better than most restaurants. I know for sure it's healthier. Uh, Reduce those impulses, right? Those impulse purchases. Here we are with the holiday season. Set yourself a budget for the holiday season of how much money you're going to spend, maybe how much you're going to spend per individual, and stick to that budget. If you're shopping online or you're at a store and you say, oh, this would be really cool. All right, well, it fits into the budget, great. But if you already hit your budget, don't go beyond that. Okay? Be really, really precise with your spending. All right. So those are the 3 strategies. Number 1, as I mentioned, start with a clear purpose. 2 is automate your savings. And 3 is optimize your revenue allocation. Okay. As I mentioned, this week, my guest is Brent Bowers. Brent is the founder of Landworks or landsharks.com. He has been investing in real estate now for over 7 years. He's a former military vet, 8 years a military vet, needed to replace his income because, let's face it, he wasn't making enough money to get out of the military. So he figured if he didn't do something, the military was going to be a career for him, and that's not what he wanted to do. And now he's making up to $50,000 per month of passive income. He's going to tell us how he does it. He's going to give us some strategies and help you understand how you can get started and really start to build and start to purchase some assets moving into 2025. So enjoy my interview with Brent. Triple P Nation, as I mentioned, my guest this week is Brent Bowers, landworks.com. I'm really excited to speak to Brent. As many of you know, I'm a passionate investor in real estate. And when I saw Brent's contact information come in and his PR people talking about things that I talk about often, but maybe from a little bit different perspective, I said, I got to have Brent on. So Brent, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Jay. Dr. Jay.
No worries, man. All good. All good. So let's start with your story. Have you always been involved in real estate? And if not, how did you get involved with it?
Like I started reading these books right here, Trump, The Art of the Deal, in like middle school. So I always wanted to be a real estate tycoon investor, got out of high school, started going to seminars, had a lawn business. I've always been a business guy. I've always wanted to have businesses. I always loved sales and entrepreneurship. I was looking at one of my old yearbooks and I had this girlfriend. She was super smart. She probably should have been the valedictorian. I like the smart, nerdy girls in high school. But she didn't know what an entrepreneur was. And I was, I'm going to be an entrepreneur one day when I grow up. And I was going through my yearbooks of my 8-year-old son because he got a yearbook and he wanted to see mine. And I read it. I read from one of those old girlfriends, and she's like, "I hope you become the entrepreneur one day." And laying in bed with my 8-year-old son, 39 years old, I was like, "Dang right, I did it. I did it." So I've always been an entrepreneur, but I knew that the most wealthy people came from real estate or invested in real estate. And I always wanted to be a real estate investor. I really enjoyed taking something that God gave us, the land, and creating something with it, like Genesis 2:15. God said, work the land, improve it, take care of it. I gave this to you. So honestly, we're really stewards of the land. So that's kind of the whole real estate thing. I love all types of real estate. My main money maker is land, but yeah, I enjoy it. I enjoy talking about it.
Well, let's get into it. So, specifically, why did you choose to invest in land different than, let's say, single or multifamily homes, which is really, I do multifamily dwellings, not single family, have not done land per se. So I'm interested why that's your niche.
Yeah, so I fell into it by accident, to be honest with you. Before we hit the record button, I was listening to a podcast looking for answers back in 2016 when my first son was born. I was preparing for my third combat deployment to Afghanistan, and I was about to leave my 1-year-old baby at home again. I was on my second marriage. My first one didn't last because I was gone all the time, and I was honestly scared to death. I was like, the history is going to repeat itself. Another woman's going to leave me now. Now children are involved. So I was searching for answers, looking for podcasts and listening to podcasts. My car, the old 97 Honda Civic, was my mobile university. I would never drive down the road without either doing a business phone call or listening to a podcast or an Audible 4-hour work week. Maybe not the safest thing in the world, but I wanted to optimize time, or like Tony Robbins says, no extra time, net time.
Right.
So I had at that time 6, maybe 7 rentals, and one of them was multifamily, a triplex. And I wasn't making money on any of them, not a single penny, because I have everything on QuickBooks. I'm tracking profit and loss and balance sheets and all that. And I was never spending the profit. So there's no way I could ever quit my job on those 7 rental properties. And these are in some good areas. Like I had Colorado Springs, Melbourne, Florida, and grossing pretty good money on the college rental I had, renting out to college students. But I wasn't making money, so I couldn't leave my job. And I heard on a podcast a guy talking about flipping vacant raw land and doubling his money like overnight. And I was like, if half of what he said was true, I can do that too. So I immediately took action like that day, started mailing tax delinquent landowners, people that were behind on their taxes, a postcard, a simple postcard that said, "Hey, my name is Brent. I'd like to buy your land at 123 Main Street. If you're interested in an all cash fair price offer, call me or text me. God bless you." And my phone rang off the hook. And if your audience wants a copy of that postcard, I still use it today.
That's
I call
great.
it the Tribe postcard. They can get a copy of it. Just go to thelandsharks.com/postcard and we'll email you a copy, basically. That's kind of where I got my start. But I'll pause for a minute. I talk a lot.
No, man, it's all good. I mean, it's absolutely fascinating. So you pursued that, you took action, and okay. So, well, let's first talk about why do you choose, or what are the reasons why you love land? Because you indicated this is kind of the genre where you went. So tell us why.
Talking about money. So I had a big problem in 2016. And I was about to leave my family again for another year, basically, because you train up for like 3 or 4 months, then you deploy for about 9 months. My first deployment was exactly 1 year, and I had to train up 4 months prior to that. So I was gone a year and 4 months, basically. That's hard on a marriage. And these children, I'm like, who's daddy again?
Yeah, right.
But I didn't want to keep going through that. So I needed to make like $4,500 a month to feel comfortable to get out, because I was kind of institutionalized at this point. I've been in it for 8.5 years. So I was used to that paycheck coming every 2 weeks, whether I was alive or dead, basically. So that first land deal, the seller called me on my phone, and I remember to this day because I went to the locker rooms. I was a brand new Army officer. I went from enlisted to officer. And the seller was like, look, you can have it for $285. It's basically what I owe on the back taxes. It's yours. So I was like, what? $285. But at that time, that was a lot of money for me back then. I was thinking, can I put it on Capital One? I might have that much available on the card. Seriously, it's embarrassing that that was like that. But I went and looked at the land that weekend, called a real estate agent because I didn't know what it was worth. I was like, hey, if I listed this with you, what could you sell it for? She's like, $10,000, easy. And I was like, whoa, okay. So we talked a little longer, and then she offered me $5,000 for the land. She offered to buy it from me. And I said, sure, let's do it. When do you want to buy it? She said, next week. I said, okay. I called the seller. I said, can I pay you on Tuesday? Because I got it sold already. I'm going to collect the cash on Wednesday. He goes, awesome, man. That's great. Yes, no problem. And this guy was a retired CPA. I think he was helping me out. Honestly, it was a blessing from God. So I went and got that check from the title company on Wednesday. And I didn't do any due diligence besides going to look at the land and calling a realtor. No title insurance policy, none of that stuff. I got a quit claim deed. So stupid. Like, all mistakes I made. But I just netted like $4,600, 47, 48, 49. No, $4,700. $4,700. And I didn't even make that an entire month in the military off of like a couple hours of my time. And I really enjoyed looking at the land. So that was like the first profit I think I ever made in real estate from 2004 to 2016.
It's crazy.
And I just kept doing it and doing it and doing it.
Obviously, you turned it into a business and you learned more and more as you went along. So again, why specifically land over? I mean, I understand you had rentals and you weren't turning a profit. Maybe could be argued that they were the wrong rentals, or was it that, your maintenance costs, your taxes, and all your upkeep was eating into whatever profit you had? Is that what the issue was?
Yeah, I was buying fixer-uppers. I was renting to the wrong people. I was charging too much. So I was kind of at the top of the market, and the people with the best credit don't have to pay that much. So all these little things I learned along the way. I was paying property managers, but why land? Why land that second land deal? Like, I'm profitable immediately on the second one. The second one was almost as bad as the first one, kind of not buildable, not accessible. It was landlocked, but they agreed to sell it to me for $500. And I was like, all right, let me see if I can sell this thing. So I went and took pictures. I had to cross state property to get to it. So pretty much trespassed, honestly. Got the photos, put it on Craigslist on Saturday morning. By Sunday, a guy brought me $500 as a down payment, and that paid for the land. So I'm immediately have no money into this. And the next month, he paid me $400 every single month for a total of $5,000. And I wasn't even charging interest back then. So I'm now profitable immediately. Now I have passive income, actual net profit. Because here's the thing, nothing can break on this land. Nothing. No water heaters can break because there's none. No air conditioners, no furnace. Like, I just brought a brand new stove for one of my properties in Cripple Creek. I still have a bunch of rentals, by the way, because I need tax shelters. So I learned that you still got to keep invested in those. But that's why land. Land is my money maker. The buildings, now it's light industrial buildings. Those are the tax shelters and the wealth creators.
So you mentioned about how people find land. So if they want to get involved and like, hey, Brent, this sounds great. Is this something obviously that you teach with your program, and then you leave it up to the individual to go find it, or do you find it for them? Like, how does that work?
Great question. I do have called the Land Sharks program. It's not another online course. I basically opened up my entire land business, and I walk through every step I take from beginning to end. And it's short, sweet instruction videos to get a result. No one wants to hear a whole entire MBA they can go watch that on YouTube. I want to show them the exact steps, but yes, I show the land. The land business has come a long way in the past like 8 years, but I show them how I find demand where people actually want the land that we're buying. Cause a lot of this stuff was like really inefficient, the stuff I used to buy. But you can make $50,000 just as fast as you can make $4,700 on a land deal if you get the right one. So here's the steps. We go and we find where the demand is at. Hey, that's where land is selling. Okay, we found where it's selling. Now we're going to price it out, and then we're going to auto-generate marketing, which we call land offer letters, blind offers. So I don't do as many postcards these days. I now send, hey, Jay, I want to buy your land on 123 Main Street for $87,000. And if you accept it and sign it and send it back, now we got a purchase agreement that I can make money on. And then I can either do a couple things with it. I can buy it, sell it with a land sales specialist real estate agent, or I can assign that contract to a cash buyer, or I can buy it with my mother-in-law's money. And then I turn around and sell it to Bob, the buyer, and let him make payments. My preferred method. That's where I get paid for a long period of time for a piece of land.
So how easy then is it to find another buyer? I mean, you had mentioned that you had posted the I think it was the second deal that you had mentioned. So how easy it then is when you find the land, you find it in a high demand area, and then how easy then is it to turn over? Is it sometimes that you sit on that land for a long time, you got carrying costs, so on and so forth? What happens then?
Yeah, I mean, the more demand that's in an area, usually the easier to sell it. But it's also pricing too. What kind of pricing are you putting on it? Because if you're listing it, like there's an area called Lehigh Acres in Florida, like you'll see 150 transactions happen in 7 days just on vacant raw land. And they're all asking, I'm just going to throw a number out there, 45,000. If yours is out there for 45,000 too, yours might take a week. It might take 6 months to sell. But if I list mine, everyone else is at 45. If I list mine for 39,000 and you can do a $5,000 down payment and make monthly payments to me at 12% interest, mine's probably going to sell that day. So it depends, price, terms, and if you package that together, you almost like create a perfect storm. It's like, if the Ford dealership over here offers financing compared to the Ford dealership down the street, and you're going to buy a brand new F-350, the one that offers financing is going to sell way more than the one that doesn't.
So you become the bank, you hold a note, and then typically what are the terms on the note, and do they vary based on the deals?
Yeah, you got it. You hit it on the head right there. It does vary based on the deal. For instance, I just accepted an offer on a piece of land in Texas. It was on the market like 3 months. We thought we priced it at below market, kind of sat. The weird thing about this one was this was 2 acres. Everything else in the area was 1 acre. So we're getting people offering on our lot the same price as 1 acre parcels. And we're like, no, ours is worth twice as much. We see it. The comps show it's worth 700,000. So we finally got an offer, great offer at a seller financing. They wanted to put 10% down, which was 47,500. So they offered 475 grand. We bought the land for 340, but they can only put 10% down, but they can pay 12.5% interest and a $40 a month note service fee. And most people would say, oh no, I need to pay off my hard money lender because I actually got a hard money lender on that property because I had to buy it quick. So I said, sure, we'll accept the offer. Well, then I did a video explaining this note that I'm about to create and who wants to buy this note at a discount. And we'll sell you this $427,000 note for $380,000 and you'll collect $4,600 a month in interest. Everyone is different. And the more land deals I do, the more creative we can get. But, if I was just waiting for that cash offer, I might still be waiting.
Sure. Tell me the level of risk. I mean, I feel like I've got a pretty good understanding. I mean, you hold the note, you hold the land. So if they default, you just pull it back and you're good to go and you find another purchaser. I mean, right? It's got to be very minimal risk on your side when you're holding a note. You're doing a seller finance, a land contract, I should say.
Yeah, you have it. You have it right. And a lot of times, as far as risk goes, if everything in the area, if all the 1 acre parcels are selling for 50,000 or around that price, and I'm buying mine for 30,000, let's just say the market shifts overnight after I buy it. Well, most of the time it doesn't drop 40, 50%. So usually I can at least get my money back, worst case scenario, or sell it. There's been a couple parcels of land I've made mistakes on where it wasn't buildable or some other issue where I just sell it for what I've got into it on financing and make my money via interest. The banks are the biggest, prettiest buildings in every city and every state because they make a pile of money on 30-year mortgages.
Yeah. Now these purchases, are they typically smaller acreage like here in Western Wisconsin? The big thing is people want to buy hunting land, farmland. And so there may be 40, 80, 150 acre listings. Can you do the same thing on large acreage as opposed to doing smaller lots or 1 or 2 acre parcels?
Large acreage is even better. But so the answer is yes, because what's so cool about large acres is like, let's just say I found an 80-acre parcel or a 100-acre parcel. And that 100-acre parcel, I bought it for $3,000. I sold it to the guy next door for $4,000 an acre. Because landowners, I know one thing about landowners. They always want to own the land next to them.
Right. So true.
I'll let that sink in with everyone. They always want more. So I have a 58-acre ranch out in Colorado. I wanted to own the one across the street and the ones beside of me as well. And I tried for 3 years to buy them and they wouldn't sell because the landowner wants to own more. So if I sold that 80-acre parcel to the guy that owns the hunting land or the farm next door and only made $1,000 additional, that's $80,000. Not much of a markup, but you got economy of scale at that point. So the bigger acreage, the better.
Interesting. So obviously you're creating a lot of passive income. I think you had mentioned up to $50,000 a month on passive income, which is obviously incredible. Who wouldn't want that and have to and be able to walk away from their day job? So how easy is it for people to get started? And I don't have a ton of money. How do I get started, Brent? What do I do?
Well, I'm going to give you an example from a gentleman. I just did a support call. We just did a support call for the land sharks. And he was talking about, he said, well, I just had to take a piece of land back in Wisconsin here. I bought it for $8,400 and I sold it for $24,000. The guy made payments for a couple years. He did a $5,000 down payment. So he didn't quite get all of his money back right away. I collected a little over $10K in the past 2 years for this land. He said, I just resold it again. This time I sold it for $44,000. I was like, whoa. And I was joking and I said, yeah, I bet you went out there and put a driveway in it and a culvert and a well and electric and a fence. And he goes, actually, you say that, but the buyer did all of that plus 200 amp service. And I was like, well, are you kidding me? He said, yeah, unfortunately, he moved on. He was changing areas and just sent me an email and said he was done with the property, take it back. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. So he's selling it for a second time. And he's got this note. Now he's going to collect interest and payments for another 10 more years. I like to do 30 years, by the way, because the banks do it. They're pretty smart, I think. So I'm just following them because just look at the first 7 years is pretty much all interest payments. And then that allows people a cheaper payment. But that's how you get started. So he found this piece of land in an area where one other parcel sold in the last 12 months. So he went off of a comp and bought it for cheap, for like $8,500. So he used his money in his IRA to buy it.
So someone like myself who owns a lot of doors, why does it make sense for me to add this to my portfolio? I mean, obviously it seems incredible, but it seems like you've got it perfected and it seems like you've got the processes dialed in. But how much of your time does it take for you from the monthly management and setting up contracts and, collecting payments and things like that?
I just got a bunch of tax bills and HOA bills. So it encouraged me to work on Saturday. So I probably spent 2.5 hours working this Saturday. I sold one parcel, which was cool. So it was worth the 2.5 hours. But my average is probably like 5 hours a week on my land business. Most of the time, that is picking the new market, talking to sellers, talking to buyers. I do have an assistant that runs the contracts and the note management and a bookkeeper on staff. And between the two of them, I pay them about $4,000, $4,500 a month for those two. So I've factored that in. I charge a note service fee for everything. And my assistant helps me with way more other things as well that she helps with the land sharks. And that bookkeeper's also doing other bookkeeping for us for our rentals as well. But a guy like you owns a bunch of doors. I'd say You probably don't have to get into it. You're probably already super rich and you collect a ton of rent and your buildings are paid for. But if not, you're probably going to come across a land deal from time to time. I really wouldn't say it's for everybody. It's almost like you got to get the plane off the ground. I'll tell you the negative thing about land is you can make a bunch of money really quickly. Me and a friend just made like a $95,000 on a 20-acre parcel in Florida. We assigned to that neighbor that wanted to own more land. This guy owned 700 acres and he was worried about our 20 acres. Crazy, right? But we made 95 grand. But here's the thing. If I take that money and I spend it, like I'm going to get hit with like 40% ordinary income tax. So I got to take that money and put it into a building like a 1031 tax exchange or a deferred tax sale. I just started learning about that. So I need to put it into doors or light industrial, or my most favorite thing lately is mobile home parks. A lot of management there though. I'm not sure I know what I'm getting myself into because I really like the light industrial triple net tenants that never ask for anything.
Yeah, well, they're responsible for everything.
I don't know. I don't know if I could talk a guy like you into it.
Yeah, I'm interested. I'm interested in learning more about it because
exactly.
We've got nothing but land around here, and I know you're 100% correct when you said that when you own land, you want the land east, north, south, and west of you. I know guys like that. They're always trying to purchase because a lot of it is family legacy. And, later on, sometimes the family can't afford to pay the taxes once the parents pass away. And so they have to liquidate the property just to be able to pay the taxes. So that's not an uncommon thing that we see around here, especially with large parcels of land. But everybody wants hunting land. Everybody wants hunting land. So I could see that being pretty advantageous. Now, you do a lot with veterans, and being a veteran yourself, how do you help veterans get started?
One, I think a veteran should buy a house at every duty station. When I was in Germany for 3 years, I paid over $40,000 for rent. This is back in 2010. So I'll never get that money back. So one, I think you should use that VA loan. And when you leave, rent that thing out. Well, I don't want to own houses all over the place. What if I get a call at midnight because the water, whatever, the toilet won't flush? Then turn your phone off. Like those calls will come, but it's like, in 30 years, that house will be paid for free and clear if you never pay extra towards that mortgage. But veterans, like what's so amazing that I've seen so many veterans do so much better in this land business than I have. Like I had a buddy that was stationed in Korea in command as a captain, running a company, did over $900,000 net profit last year. Well, no, that was 2023. So correction, that was in 2023. This guy's a captain, and now he's out of the military. My other buddy, he's now building like 700 townhomes in Nashville, Tennessee. Ultimately, he's in the land business. He's door knocking these houses on 20 acres. And these houses, like, you got to be careful. If you knock too hard on the door, they'll fall over because they've inherited these houses through generations, and showing these people how they can become millionaires by the pad, basically. That's just a couple veterans just crushing it. Now, not everyone wants that. Like I had an old officer friend that we were in Afghanistan together. He just wanted to replace his income. That was it. $5,000 a month is all he needed to make to have a life on his terms, where he had financial freedom because his bills are covered, time freedom. He's doing like 1 or 2 land deals a month, and it doesn't take that long to do all of them. Some take longer, don't get me wrong. And geography freedom. He can live anywhere he wants to.
So thinking this, right, I'm thinking through myself as far as the advantages of owning doors. And, I think about how it benefits financially. You have appreciation on the property. You can take depreciation on the property, which offsets the expenses. And then you can carry losses over, which offsets your passive income, which dramatically reduces your marginal rates. So you're paying less taxes than the guy or gal who's working 40 hours a week and is earning ordinary income. This is why I'm a huge fan of real estate. You have tax advantages, of course. So does property depreciate similar as, when you have a structure on it? Is the depreciation the same, or is it different?
You cannot depreciate land. There's nothing to depreciate whatsoever.
Okay. Yeah. So it's just got to be a physical structure.
So you don't get that benefit.
But you still get the cash flow.
Home park,
you still get the cash flow and the appreciation.
There's so
and the
many
tax
benefits
advantages.
to owning doors.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool. Very cool. So as we,
that's why I take my land money.
What's your future vision with this? Where do you see it going?
My future vision is keep building the passive. My payments have went down quite a bit because I used to sell these land loans. I try and get as high of a payment as possible, and I would incentivize it with like 0% interest. But now I want to go as long as possible with a lower payment for as long as possible. So what does that mean? Well, I went from like 2-year loans to now 30-year loans. So the payment's much smaller, but it's much more interest and way longer. So I want to just keep funneling that money into light industrial buildings to really lower my tax bill at the end of the year, like you mentioned, depreciation through cost segregation. And on those buildings I'm buying, I'm putting large down payments, sometimes most of the time 25%, to acquire them, and then letting a triple net lease tenant pay down that mortgage for me, usually 15-year mortgages. And then they're also going to appreciate because I have great tenants in them. So we got the mortgage pay down, we got the appreciation, we got the tax shelter. What am I missing? So that's kind of the long-term vision, is just keep using this land money to buy, really just build the, let it snowball to where all these buildings are paid off in the next 15, 20 years. And maybe I'll get tired of doing land deals by then. I'm not tired of it yet, but that's the ultimate plan, is just to have, and really the passive income, it's enough to meet our expenses. As long as you don't move the goal post, life is great, but it's like there's always something fun, and your hobbies get more expensive. You try and help more people, you give more. I guess the goal of it is just to keep helping veterans to get into the land business, sharing this with more people, because I think people are really catching on to this land investing business. It's so easy to build it. It doesn't take 5 or 10 years to build it. You could be profitable immediately in it.
It's incredible. So one question that came up as we're having this conversation is, the person who purchased the land from you, can they pay it off in advance? In other words, 5 years down the road on a 30-year mortgage, can they go to the bank and say, you know what, I can get a better interest rate. I've got some equity in this now. I'm going to go to the bank and pay it off, and then they pay you off.
Absolutely. We've had that happen. People will do that, or they'll get a construction loan and build on it, and the bank will say, hey, we're going to pay this guy off. We'll take this part of it as part of the collateral. Some of our smaller notes, once or twice a year, my assistant, she'll reach out and share with people, hey, Capital One's offering 0% interest for 18 months. You could pay off your balance. We'll knock off 10% of what you owe, and then you can get a 18-month 0% interest loan possibly. So they're now going from paying us 12% interest to knocking 10% off of their balance and paying 0% for 18 months. So they're in a better position as long as they pay it off in 18 months. But that's sometimes how we do a quick cash grab, which I should do that actually right now, because I'm getting a bunch of HOA bills right now, landowner association bills, and taxes are due again. So you mentioned about the family paying the taxes, it kind of hurt my heart a little bit. A lot of this, we're collecting funds on, but it always sucks to pay those taxes. It does suck. I don't care who you are. I hate paying the taxes on this land. So we got over 200 and something parcels, by the way. If it wasn't for my assistant, I would probably have lost all these in back taxes.
And then someone would be coming to you and trying to do the land grab.
Yeah. We were mailing ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this has been really fascinating. It's fun to learn about this, and I was really interested, like I said, when I saw your content come through. So you've done a great job explaining it, laying out the benefits and the differences, and so on and so forth. So if people are interested in learning more, Brent, how can they connect with you?
Yeah, the easiest way is head on over to thelandsharks.com and schedule a call with me. I'll ask you a few questions, your name, your phone number, your email address, and I'll call you as soon as possible.
And again, does anyone need to pre-qualify as far as, a minimum amount of money that they have available if they want to get involved, or does that play a part in it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's definitely a business. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some money. But you could be like me in 2016, where you owed a bunch of money, like Capital One and Home Depot card was maxed out. And thank God someone gave me some time and a little advice, and I'll never forget that. So, maybe you don't have much time or much money right now. If you want it bad enough, you could still get it. You could still do it. A lot of our Land Sharks community members will team up with other people. But yeah, I hate to say that, you got to have a certain amount of money and a certain amount of time, because I talked to a gentleman today in South Africa. He's really got to do it. He owns millions of dollars, but he's got a bigger why than that. He has a baby and he's got a certain diet. He's got to follow a certain diet, and mom needs to quit her job so she can be home with that baby. So he's like, I got to make this work so I can retire my wife so she can be home with our 9-month-old so this baby can live. So he's going to do it. Like, he's got to do it. I say if your why is big enough, the how will become easy.
Oh, I agree with that statement 100%. Well, first, I want to thank you again for coming on, sharing your wisdom, your knowledge. And I also want to thank you for your service. How many years were you in the service?
8.5.
8.5. Wow. Again, thank you for your service. Appreciate it very much.
Thanks, man.
So, as I mentioned, guys, my guest is Brent Bowers with Land Sharks. Check them out at landsharks.com. Schedule a call. It's free. Learn more about what they do and see perhaps if investing in some real estate is in your future. I mean, here we are. We're about ready to enter in 2025 and maybe have some new financial goals and you want to create a side hustle for you. This could be the right one for you. So, Brent, once again, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks so much for having me. I apologize. I just had a 6-year-old and my 8-year-old walk in.
No worries, man. That's life. It's all good. So, Brent, once again, thank you. Triple P Nation, as I always say, you be you. Just be the best you, and you will always empower your dreams, ignite your passion, and accelerate your prosperity. And perhaps you will with Land Sharks. Brent, thanks so much. Talk soon.
God bless, man. Thank you so much.